What to do if a French girl is drowning. The name of the island was Paradise. Paradise Island. That sounded mighty good as my friend Poppy and I lifted off in the back row of the Lockheed L-188 from McGee-Tyson Airport. Knoxville had been iced in for 2 days and we were lucky to get out. We were also lucky on the cheap airfare on that no-name Ford-engine prop airline. I'd heard those planes can fly on only one engine, which left a spare if that two that seemed to be sputtering failed over Roan Mountain on the way to Charlotte. A worthwhile risk to take given the bikini-clad girls we had seen in the ads for Paradise Island. But probably not a flight we would have taken if we'd have been a year or two along in our aeronautical engineering studies. On our first day on the island, Poppy went off with a girl he'd met back at the Charlotte airport who was also going to the island. Poppy had a gift. That left me on my own, beachside, contemplating the waves gently lapping on the multitudinous grains of the pearly sands. There were indeed plenty of astonishingly thinly clad, lithe girls on the beach, laughing and cavorting in social clusters of games and fun. They were mainly French. I knew that from my high school years of studying that treacherously elusive language. So I knew more than they thought I knew now, how to play that to my advantage. There were even rumors of a topless beach somewhere, but as with the girls, I had no idea how to broach that or any other topic. So I just leaned into a curved pine tree and dove back into my Camus. That's Albert to you, Albert Camus, the French existentialist. The myth of Sisyphus, I believe. Try sputtering that fast 3 times to some French girls and see what happens. And I knew at least enough about it, should that author come up in conversation with the French girls, not to pronounce the S in Camus. If you do that while propositioning some French girl, a squad of enforcers just flies you right off the island, and rightfully so. So that's when the Frenchest of all the French girls walked past. Unlike the others, she was solo. Her hair was blonde as a sun-bathing lioness, her skin as bronze as Tutankhamun's death mask, and her expression about as inscrutable. Her very languid stride was the very definition of the very most very abject unconcern. She was the most desirable creature I had ever seen of any species, buxom but not too buxom, thin but not too thin, shapely but not too shapely. I could have called out, "Here, over here, whatever you want. I will die trying to supply it. If you don't speak English, that's okay. We don't have to talk. I will learn whatever you talk. Romanian, no problem. It's like Latin, right? I know Latin. I studied that too." I just didn't know where to start the first sentence. Only when she was at the edge of hailing range did I realize that there was something we could have talked about, although it might not have set the right tone. Towards the top of her angelic foot there lay angled a bright silver sliver of thin, flashy metal. It resided casually on a wispy limp chain near the protuberance of her incomparable ankle. It beckoned towards the riches higher up on that majestically lolling body. I could have warned her. I keep up with these types of things. If she goes in the water, the sunlit flash of that gleaming pendant could attract a barracuda, which could chomp her magnificent Minervan foot right off in a single primitive, primordial pass, triggered by the most base and corrupt of animal predatory instincts. She would be maimed, wounded. condemned to a life of pitiful invaliditude in a filthy backstreet hovel at the intersection of Dickens Lane with Misery Street. I could warn her. I could save her from that awful fate. But she had tossed her hair dismissively and was gone. I returned to my reading. I was starting to think that Camusian stuff about rebelling against acidi and ennui was possibly a bit more riveting in the original French. Boredom was not my problem. Some time later, I might have dozed a bit, I heard an odd sort of porpoise-like squeak delivered to my ears on the warm tropical breeze from the direction of the waves. A distant, high-pitched, "Elf! Elf! Elf! Elf!" I've got pretty good directional location hearing which delivered my gaze out past the mass of frolicking, nearly unclothed bodies on beach and in the water, and out to where the larger waves were starting to quench themselves on approach to the tranquil shore. Out there, far out there, way past where anybody was leisurely swimming, I saw a single human arm raised vertically out of the water and repeatedly slapping hard to the surface. It was slapping hard. It must have hurt. My first thought was, that's somebody in trouble. My second thought was, that's her. My third thought, even quicker, and this might tell you a lot about my solitudinous plight at that time, was, she's faking. She's trying to lure me into the water to save her, and then she's going to swim away like a mermaid and laugh at me. How she knew that I was not only a senior lifesaver but also a certified water safety instructor, I don't know. How she knew that I had passed under duress the severest life-saving test ever devised and administered in 35-degree flooding Abrams Creek at Happy Valley in the Great Smokies under the cruelest taskmaster ever authorized to oversee such certifications. How she knew that, I could not possibly know. But I did know she wasn't going to make a fool out of me. So I returned to Camus. As I recall, the hero was just trying to decide between doleful acceptance and aggressive self-imposed elevation of the spirit. Then I heard it again. Elf! Elf! I looked up. What am I, a monster? What if she was walking me? What if she wasn't? The horrific slapping of the naked arm on the surface. Would someone subject their flesh to such a punishment for a joke? But why was no one else reacting? Not another soul on the beach or in the water was looking in the direction of that torment. Later on in my professional lifeguard career, I sadly learned that this is, in fact, all too typical. On several occasions where people were in trouble in the water, I have witnessed a mass mutual protection program of denial, non-involvement. Monkey not see, monkey not do anything. I rose and went to the water, leaving Albert and his perplexities behind, my place marked in the book with a spray of pine needles. All right, what I saw was a woman drowning. She went down, and it was way past the third time. I sprinted through the shallows and belly flopped into a fast crawl. In 20 seconds, I was at the scene. Her long blonde hair and arms were laid out a few inches below the surface. I knew what to do. You lock your arm across her chest by grabbing your wrist with the opposite hand. But first, you dive down and check her knees to see if she has in fact turned toward you, because if she has, she will jump on you like a spider on a snail, and you will both go to the bottom in a tangled mass of panic and drown. Indeed, she had turned toward me. Some inner mad survival eye had sensed my approach as her last chance on this warm, sunny earth. I swam down and turned her away from me and saw the flash of that amulet. It was her. I palm walked up her back and locked her across the chest just like I had been taught. And she came alive like a breaching trident submarine, with arms and legs kicking like a homicidal, whirling dervish. She clawed my head and threw every elbow and heel she could muster, and down we went. But my hand was locked on my wrist, and I had already been to the bottom of Abrams Creek with a triathlete named Dave Long who outweighed me by 80 pounds. A nice guy, by the way, and a stickler for training. I can still hear him saying, quote, "No matter what, hold on to your wrist. That may save your life one day," unquote. And I did. Although I still think he was pissed that he didn't break me by surprise on my first try that cold morning in Abrams Creek. Like I said, I think about those kind of things. The girl had already swallowed a lot more water than me, so she gave up first. She went limp, and I got her up and headed inshore on the surface with me side-kicking beneath her. She was heavy, and I took in a fair amount of water myself on some of the bigger waves. I could have used a little help as I dragged her through the shallows, and eventually some of the sunbathers did assist me to get her onto the dry land, feet up higher on the beach, as trained. This is a bad one, I thought. Her eyes were totally white, no irises visible. They hadn't trained me for that. But incredibly, she was still breathing. Her magnificent chest was rising and falling, and she was coughing and barfing up copious quantities of frothy liquid from side to side. I certainly thought about mouth to mouth just to be sure she was getting real air. But truthfully, the odor venting from those Michelangelian cold marble lips was enough to give Lothario himself second thoughts. A mixture of salt water and seaweed and some sort of pizza sauce, mostly a lot of simple barf, I would say. So handsome as they were, my professional training saying no unnecessary procedures for the lips, I demurred. By that time, an EMS truck had crunched through the palmettos, and some guys in green rubber suits had pushed me aside, did some quick checks, and got her on a stretcher and hustled her into the back and zoomed off. Drowning bad for our business down there on Paradise Island. Move along. The groups on the beach had returned to their little gatherings. No one looked at or said anything to me. I didn't hear a word of English the whole time. It may seem odd, but I realized that the only available deed in my arsenal was to return to my pine tree and reclaim my place in the canoe. I think I was just up to the part about the need to attribute meaning to life and the, quote, unreasonable silence, unquote, of the universe in response. The rest of the story is brief. I was sitting on the vast veranda of the hotel the next morning, finally finishing the canoe. The girl walked by, with the flashing silver on her ankle and looking none the worse for wear. Her marvelous assets were squirming in a new, slightly more flesh-colored bikini. She sized me up with that same toss of her sun-bleached locks and proceeded forward on her chosen path with a subtle but no doubt practiced shake of her fabulous fanny. She didn't know I was the one who saved her, and I couldn't think of a way to break it to her. plane left for Charlotte and Knoxville a few days later, Poppy had a mysterious smile on his face the whole trip back, as if he had had some marvelous adventures which he might one day tell me about. I personally was thinking about which Camus I should read next, The Stranger or The Rebel. As I glanced around the cabin of the plane, I thought I heard a very faint, familiar sound. Elf! Elf! But I paid no attention to it. All that was the melancholic echo of the long-lost faithful barking dog that Robinson Crusoe imagined he heard in the movie as he was being rowed out to the ship to begin the return to his old life before he was marooned on the island. I opened my camoose and sincerely wished that Camus had written a final definitive book more along the lines of The Love Boat, the Existentialism Cruise, All-American translation.